Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Sonic Adventure DX-ish. In the last part, we finished off Amy's campaign, totaling our campaign cleared count at 4 out of the main 6. And with her out of the way, that means it's time for now the absolute best campaign, Gammas! Right? No, it's time for Big. Oh boy, prepare for the weird one.
Hold on, Froggy, I'm coming! What? Froggy, is that you? You're looking kinda weird, good buddy. What's up with the tail? Hey, wait a minute! You swallowed my lucky charm! Come back here! What's wrong with you? Something's not right. We've always been friends. For years. Froggy! Wait up! Oh dear. Yoo-hoo! Froggy! Come out, wherever you are. Oh man, where could my Polywog pal be anyway?
So, towards the end of the last part, I brought up that there's a completion percentage marker at the bottom right of the character select screen as you go through their campaigns. If memory serves, what we've seen thus far is already 17% of his campaign. Big's campaign is far and away the shortest, especially if you play it well in a way that's radically different than the other 5 playable characters. But I'll get more into that once we actually go into our first level, albeit Mr. Know-It-All just explained the entire campaign's main mechanic there now, didn't he?
Quick! We have to find the rest of the missing Chaos Emeralds!
Eggman!
With that said, before we actually go to our first level, there's actually a power-up we can grab right off the bat. Over towards where we got Tails' first power-up over here in the little sewer section behind Twinkle Park. Turn the corner, and in the water is our first power-up, which is actually a bit of a different type for Big specifically. Lure power-up. Use this to catch bigger fish. Big is a fishing campaign, if you can't tell already. Those ones don't give you outwardly new abilities, they just let you catch bigger and bigger fish, which is useful for the B and A rank missions, if you're going for all the emblems. More on that if I ever do that follow-up LP, which I probably will, knowing me, just years down the line. As for where we first need to head over to, we actually want to head over towards the other half of Station Square. For reasons, as we'll see in a moment.
Froggy, there you are. Wait, don't run away. What you doing under that car? What's wrong?
Every time Big speaks, by the way, remember what I said earlier, that's Duke Nukem. I love that so much. Big the Cat was like the fan least favorite character for a good while there and was often pointed at as one of the reasons why Sonic should only really focus on Sonic and maybe Shadow in later games. I think people were a little too harsh on him for what he is, considering his campaign is so short at the end of the day. But I get the grievances people have, because if memory serves, I'll have to see if I can find the exact source in this. I remember the hearsay on Big was that he was designed the way he was as a campaign to be as deliberately unlike the rest of the characters as he could be. So instead of being a fast-paced platformer in some form, it was a slower-paced thing that you had to kind of chill with. And I think there's room for that. I think they just needed to do it a little more gently than they did here. So as Big, we have the strength to lift that car to go back down here to the sewer where we got the Lightspeed Dash as Sonic, but we can't jump high enough to go back up the way Sonic did, so we need to come this way towards our first actual level.
Oh.
Notably, Big will only say ow there if you get his tail closed in the door. I believe that's actually an American voice track exclusive thing. I think that's kind of funny. For now, though, let's actually start talking about Big's main mechanics. As I brought up earlier, he's a fishing campaign. Your goal in every level is to get Froggy. There's one or several giant bodies of water where you can find Froggy alongside a bunch of other fish. For the main campaign, you just need to catch Froggy. Catching any other fish are just for the level B and A missions, wherein for level B you need to catch a 1,000 gram fish as well as Froggy, or a 2,000 gram fish as well as Froggy. For every single level, which is what the lure power-ups are for, because they allow you to catch the heavier fish. Fishing's pretty simple. You press the spin dash button from other characters and you cast your lure. You can aim out, you can move the analog stick to move your lure around really awkwardly. Your goal is to attract Froggy, though. And something I had time actually processing for a good while there is whenever Froggy or another fish actually approaches your lure, you need to hold down when they're on top of it on the analog stick to actually catch them onto the lure and start pulling them in. At which point, you start tapping, I believe, the jump button over and over again, trying to pull them in gently. If the tension gauge on the right gets too maxed out, your line will break, and that's actually a lost life at that point. So your goal is to just get Froggy in as fast as you can. Because of this, Big stages can be especially short. That's what I was talking about earlier, where if you're good at Big's fishing, you can get through this very quickly. But on a first playthrough, you're probably going to be floundering about, pardon the pun, trying to figure out where not only Froggy is, because he's pretty deep in some of these waters we need to find, but also just trying to get him to actually cooperate with you, which is an entirely different ordeal. It's not the greatest. I think there's room for something like this. That they actually really like how they did the fishing minigame in Frontiers, but I get the frustration people have with this campaign overall.
Welcome to Twinkle Park.
With that level out of the way, though, they're already expecting us to go straight into level 2. The NPCs will guide you along the way, as will this cutscene right here showcasing the Ice Key. So our next level is actually Ice Cap. Now, something that a lot of people talk about, especially during like the mid-2010s, was that Big the Cat is a giant advertisement for Sega bass fishing as well as the other fishing games on the Dreamcast. And to my knowledge, especially with the Sega-developed ones like bass fishing, there's a little bit of a point to be made there because to my knowledge, the mechanics are relatively similar in terms of how the catching works. But at the same time, I think that's mostly them just reusing what they could in different places. But especially people will bring up the fact that he's probably an advertisement for the Sega fishing pole peripheral controller that the Dreamcast had. With that said, and I'm going to need to do a little more research on this to make sure I'm actually right about this, of course. To my knowledge, that controller only actually works with the fishing games. Sonic Adventure, it doesn't work at all with. So that can't be, he can't be an advertisement for that in specific, even if he is maybe for the other fishing games directly. I'm assuming people who say that part outright either haven't done the research themselves or just parroting what other people have said about it. That is, if I'm right, of course, which I think I am from what I remember researching before doing this LP. There is something kind of funny, though, about our way over to Ice Cap. In regards to a mechanic I talked about a little bit earlier, where yes, characters have their own individual speed values for actual movement, but they also have different speed values for like going up slopes as well as going up ladders. Big climbs ladders the fastest, and entering Ice Cap is very funny due to this. But also worth noting, one of Big's power-ups is also right on the way to Ice Cap, just to our left once we go around this particular curve. I don't think you technically ever need it, but you might as well grab it, you know?
You've discovered the life belt. It keeps you afloat when you're in water. To swim underwater, press the jump button when afloat.
So pretty straightforward. Now, if Big gets into water, he floats automatically unless you're holding the jump button. This can help you get a little bit closer to Froggy in order to actually catch him for the levels, but also if you're going for the emblems, that'll help you get a little bit more done in that regard as well. And now, while I can enter Ice Cap outright right now, we can also immediately go grab another one of Big's power-ups, so we're going to go do that before we enter Ice Cap itself. The main reason I'm doing it in this order largely comes down to the amount of backtracking I would need to do for it, because potentially I could lose the ice key along the way if I didn't drop it off, and then just have to go all the way back to Station Square to get it.
Didn't I see a green-colored stone somewhere?
Not that that's a particularly long trek to begin with, but it's the best streamlining I can do here, really. Might as well take advantage of that where I can in this particular campaign. Now, there are actually 2 power-ups we can find for Big in the jungle section. And if you were eagle-eyed during the initial cutscene at the start of this campaign, you actually already saw one, because there's one underneath Big's bed at his house. It's visible in the intro cutscene, and there's a level of that's frustrating, because it's like, come on, Big. That's your literal personal storage unit, buddy. Grab it. Come on. In fact, if you're keeping count already, Big the Cat not only has the highest amount of upgrades out of any character in the game, I think he has the highest amount of optional ones to begin with in terms of like the percentage too, because I think you technically don't even need the life belt to beat the campaign overall, as none of the levels have Froggy deep enough that you need to use it. There's times where it's recommended, yes, but you can theoretically, I think, get Froggy from anywhere as long as you're on the ground. So, nowadays, I think people have largely calmed down about Big as a character. They don't necessarily like his gameplay here in Sonic Adventure 1, but between his later performances here and again and some of the comedy and memes that have come forth, people have largely calmed down on him and aren't as vitriolic towards him, his existence, as they were in like the early to mid 2010s, let alone prior to that. But on a first run, this can definitely feel like a slap in the face in terms of pacing. An intentional one, as brought up earlier, once again, if memory serves. But definitely to a point of almost being distracting.
It's the power rod. You now have longer casting distance.
So now our rod can be cast out further, potentially even eliminating any kind of need the life belt could have. And I'm just going to speed our way back out through the jungle because Big's walking speed made this take like half a minute. And now let's head back over towards Ice Cap's level to see the true speed that Big climbs up ladders. Holy shit, my dude, how in the hell? Alright, so Froggy here in Ice Cap, you need to actually jump on some of the broken portions of ice to open up little underwater areas that feel weirdly like they're out of Metroid Prime for me retroactively. But if you noticed, I walked past Froggy underwater a moment ago, but you can see the reason why in the distance over there. Not only does Big have the highest amount of power-ups in his campaign, he's also the only character in the game who has a power-up located in a level, weirdly. Jump on this ice down here and sink down to the bottom, and you can grab your next lure power-up. Be careful, though. There's not many times you can actively drown in this game. I have actively drowned getting this power-up before, as sometimes getting out of the water here can be a little iffy. The spring is there to sort of help you, but you jump out at such an angle using it where it's very easy to fall back in. Honestly, it's easier just to use your momentum from rising back up from the bottom of the water naturally, to just kind of hug around the lip of the ice and get out that way. So now we can go and catch Froggy. Now, some of you might say, wait, we're underwater with the frog. Big can sort of swim. Why don't we just grab the frog while we're under the water? To which I say, shush, it's a video game. You gotta play the game by its own rules. I feel like the only main developer who would probably make a game where fishing is the objective, but you can still just crawl into the water to grab it is, honestly, I think honestly probably either Bethesda, intentionally or otherwise, or honestly Kojima would probably do some stuff like that if he ever made a fishing game, which honestly, The idea of Kojima making a fishing game like that is so bizarrely endearing in my head. I would love to see what he would do with it. Like, he's proven he can do some really cool stuff in the story-based scene. I want to see what Kojima's version of a Mario Party feels like with some of the stuff he can pull with minigames. I think that would be really funny. By the way, that's Froggy Cop once again. He has once again escaped us. 2 of Big's levels are down. Not that many more to go, honestly. But because we reached our 40th emblem, Sonic Drift Racing has been added to the Game Gear playable list. The racing game that I might cover at some point. It's not really that deep, but I might as well showcase it at some point. I already did most of the other Game Gear games, really. Could make for good background footage and like an update video, which I probably should do one of those soon, honestly, to update like life situation stuff. But I'll think about that later. So for now, our only real objective is to head back to Main Mr. Groons and see where we can go from there.
Oh no! He's got my little buddy! Whoa! Glad I found you!
Oops.
Oh, now what am I gonna do?
God, I forget if I mentioned it already or not, but I love Big's theme.
Sorry. If I had only held on tighter.
Honestly, if it wasn't for specifically SA1's It Doesn't Matter as well as Gamba's character theme, Big's theme would probably be my favorite on the music score alone. Because again, I really love some kick-ass guitar. All we can do for now, though, is follow Froggy to wherever he seemingly went next, which, given the relatively small scale of the actual adventure maps here in Adventure 1, we only have a couple places we can go, and following up this particular explorer, Froggy seemingly went back to Station Square, so that even narrows down our search all the more, and hopefully there'll be someone who can point us in the right direction on that side of things. So if you think about the pacing through the story at the moment in the other campaigns, if Tails is here, that means the Tornado 1 has already crashed. You might be wondering, wait, I said there's important stuff in Big's campaign. Just wait.
That robot! I'd better go after Amy!
Big's campaign does have some surprisingly story-pertinent information in it. It's just very minor and is technically in some ways explained more in Gamma's campaign as well, but I'll talk more about that when I reach that one. I will find you, Frog. I will find you. Albeit, given they bounced towards the hotel, that means they're either at the casino at this point, or over in their actual location, they're over in Emerald Coast. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 17, we're gonna head towards Emerald Coast, and from memory from there, go to just finish off Big's campaign in general. Again, it's not a very long campaign. Most of the latter 3 campaigns are very quick. See you guys then.